In a time when the world was asked to stand still, when distance replaced closeness, and silence settled into the spaces where life once rushed by, there came, unexpectedly, an invitation. An invitation to pause, to listen, to remember. These poems were first written 3 decades ago, long before the world would slow itself down. They were fragments of a younger voice, observations, imaginings, and moments. Some lived, some dreamed, captured in simple verse. They mark the beginning of a journey not yet understood, a life still unfolding. Now, they return, but not as they were. Over time, these words have found a new dimension, a musical landscape woven around them. Many of the original arrangements have taken shape as songs, giving rhythm and resonance to what once lived only on the page. While modern tools have helped shape and enhance the sound, the heart of it remains unchanged. Every lyric, every phrase, every creative impulse that brings these poems to life is entirely human. The music itself draws from a lifetime of influence. Echoes of classical guitar, of Johann Sebastian Bach, Ludwig van Beethoven, Antonio Vivaldi, and others, linger within the interludes, shaped by years of study, practice, and performance. These inspirations blend with more contemporary textures, forming something both familiar and new. Together, this suite becomes a kind of passage through time. A coming of age, stretching from the 1960s through the 1990s. A mosaic of memory and motion, of youth and discovery, of places once unknown that would later become home. What begins as scattered verse reveals itself, perhaps, as something more. A quiet prelude to a larger story still being written. And so, as the music unfolds, and the words begin to breathe once more, you are invited to step inside, to reflect not only on where you are, or where you are going, but on who you have been, and who you are becoming.
The sky, fear not, for the wind will soon be rising to lift your sails and make your spirit fly. Watch well, daydreamer, mark the stars above, let heaven guide the course you undertake. May every sunshine fill your heart with love, and leave your footprints steadfast in your wake. Farewell, daydreamer, steady as she goes. strength and wherewithal, then share the tales of all that you explore with those who wait upon your native shore. Houses neatly lined in rows with crooked alleyways beyond their fences. A barefoot girl cools off her toes in a puddle where she delicately dances. Boys on bicycles pass her by. She pirouettes, then curtsies with finesse. She didn't even catch their eye. They never even saw her pretty dress. The kids cut through the woods each morning on their way to class. He'd stop by the hollow oak and wait for her to pass. Like a lonely cowboy, he would stand and gaze up at the sky. She wore a checkered uniform, he wore a shirt and tie. They'd run across the highway, he'd sometimes carry her books as the sisters in the schoolyard gave them dirty looks.
To the grown-ups it was just a park. The woods were always cool and dark. They never took the time to learn the river's every twist and turn. But we, the young explorers, knew, and we never forgot after we grew. At the edge of the city we could go and make peace with the world at Patapsco. Had long since shut down, since the flood came up and took the town, and the scenery was rearranged. Something about it never changed. We did a lot of fishing way back then. We'd reel them in and throw them back again. just like the natives did. It was quite an escape for a Baltimore kid. To the grown-ups it was just a park. The woods were always cool and dark. They never took the time to learn the river's every twist and turn. One by one, the footprints fall in the early morning snow.
The paper boy still has 100 papers left to throw.
With sunrise still an hour hence,
He stops beneath the lamp
his scarf is white,
with snow and ice.
his feet
Are cold and damp.
he makes his way
Across the road, his sack upon his shoulder.
the wind is
Blowing from the north, each moment makes him colder.
he doesn't hear the barking
As he delivers to the Jones,
he only
hears his crunching feet through snow in muffled tones. Then one by one the lights go on. The city starts to rise.
he walks into
His kitchen, frozen tears are in his eyes. He pours a bowl of cereal, lays down to take a snooze. He knew that school was canceled. He'd read it in the news. Karen taught her boyfriend how to love. She taught him how to laugh and how to cry. She drove him crazy wondering who she was, and promised she would never say goodbye.
until this day, her words he often quotes, and keeps her letters hidden in his room.
Time went by and she had things to do. He had made a few plans of his own. He still believes her love for him was true. Neither of them have ever felt alone. He had made a few plans of his own. He still believes her love for him was true. Neither of them have ever felt alone. Karen was a teacher of the heart, though teachers and their students often part.
Of the sun reach out today, descending hands that make no sound. Long thin fingers find a way to coax fresh flowers from the ground.
Such early morning accolades through treetops high, unnoticed pass. Bright hands brush back the barren shade to paint fresh colors on the grass.
No bounds have they, these arms of light, dissembled slowly ray by ray.
And like a child, this human race beneath these arms wakes up today.
By the light of the sunrise, I see you stand before your own reflection. It's another tired morning and another race begun. Against the setting sun, and we go on believing we'll defeat any foe in our pathway, and we'll face them bravely encouraged not to fail. And we'll chase across the blue horizon, wrapped in fancy wrapping paper. It's another tired morning and a race against the sun. Rise above the tallest trees in all creation. The crowded streets like hallways, shining in the sun. And the bridge is like an open doorway, another day begun, and a race against the sun.
Like that of a fresh brook unfrozen, released from the ice of a cold winter chill. She tiptoes unnoticed down the path she has chosen, from up on the mountain top down through the hill. She breathes with a fragrance of newly bloomed flowers, adorned in lace, smiling and happy within. She dances and sings in the cool April showers, then laughs when she finds she is soaked to the skin. The birds from the sky make a home in her garden. The bright shining sun runs his hand through her hair. If she crosses your pathway, she'll ask for your pardon, as trees on her banks stand in silence and stare. classic, romantic Shakespearean quote, or the wink of an eye in a warm summer breeze, a soft-spoken word or a gentle love note will keep her protected from next winter's freeze. As love like springtime rose from one dark night, my sense of smell returned and music played. The welcome warmth came on without a fight. I opened up my arms to greet the light and noticed how the sunshine hit the shades when love like springtime rose from one dark night. Elated, I regained my sense of sight and noticed that my bed had been well made, and welcome warmth came on without a fight. I laughed that I'd regained my appetite. My sense of taste survived, yet undismayed, as love like springtime rose from one dark night. I felt no tremors brought on by my fright as I touched the one with whom I laid, when welcome warmth came on without a fight. An artist sits on the river's edge with a canvas bare upon her lap. A vision forms and comes to life as multicolors overlap. The artist waits her wares to sell when greeted by a passerby. A friendly smile, a familiar quote. Please, would you like my art to buy? This riverscape, a passing ship with vibrant trees in colorful bloom. Could many years of pleasure make, hanging in your living room? I think perhaps another day. The passerby said with regret, accept my compliments instead. Then he vanished in the warm sunset. The artist waved and said goodbye as a bill collector came her way. I'm sorry, sir, the artist said. Please come back another day. We moored the boat at Walnut Point to rest the night beneath the summer moon. The tap of wavelets on the hull lulled the gulls to sleep in the lagoon. The night wind came in a black tuxedo and signaled for the music to begin. He played the rigging with his bow as if it were an antique violin. A moonlight serenade at Walnut Point. On heaven's stage the stars began to dance. We raised another glass into the night and gazed into each other's eyes entranced. Early morning Sunday past the small town that's known as Betterton. The boardwalk is gone, the arcade is gone. It's just a condo ghost town with tumbleweed memories. The old Bay Bell used to make seagulls still fly, and tumbleweed memories still pass you by.
Sailing down the sassafras,
Early morning Sunday, past the small town that's known as Betterton. The boardwalk is gone,
the arcade is gone.
it's just a condo ghost town with tumbleweed memories. The old Bay Bell used to make the trip from Baltimore each day, past the noise at Sparrow's Point, then on across the bay. I remember the sound as the lines hit the dock, as the gangplank came down and the gates were unlocked. Cold chicken sandwiches and bumper car rides as the boardwalk bustled on a hot summer day. Then the whistle would blow and a bell would chime. We'd be back to the city by supper time. Now a condo ghost town where the seagulls still fly, and tumbleweed memories still pass you by.
The sunset is my workshop, each silhouette a tool. The evening is my labor, each morning a jewel.
Every day on Casco Bay, the ferry makes her rounds right on time. From Portland she departs.
Tired commuters feel the chill. To the islands they are bound. Their whole world changes when they disembark.
Age slows down, time stands still. 8 bells on the clock. The boys stop for a quick one at the bar.
Every day on Casco Bay, the ferry makes her dock, and no one ever wonders where they are.
And the sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Portland town.
Old Spider from Riverton was rugged and tested. He was up with the wind and out with the tide. Webb at her mooring was clean and rested, waiting,
Anticipating
her daily ride. The rougher the seas, the gruffer his grimace, grinning and grinding until his sails were close hauled. The world at an angle, old Spider would wrangle, looks better every day
in spite of it all. Rarely does a sailor think about man's reality when his hand is on the wheel and his eye is on the sea. Rarely does a sailor fear when wind is blowing fair. His world becomes a dream fulfilled.
with the first person who looks at her right. The guy with the yo-yo amazes his friends, while the girl on the keyboard plays a song that won't end. An old man with a bow tie talks to himself as the barmaid juggles bottles on and off of the shelf. They sing and they dance and go home with each other. One girl even comes in with her mother. Then the last person leaves by the light of the moon. Just a night on the town at the swamp circle
One night the tugboat captain came ashore, looking for the local tavern whore. Unable was he to resist temptation, though quite familiar with her reputation. It was pleasure he was seeking, nothing more. Observing with my girlfriend at the bar, as we listened to somebody play guitar, the tugboat captain came in through the door and sat down on the stool beside the whore, puffing on a very large cigar. The first few moments passed exchanging glances, the next were on the floor exchanging dances. The tugboat captain bought the whore a drink. What she whispered I can scarcely think, being unfamiliar with such strange romances.
Captain and the whore got up to go. Patrons at the bar were laughing low. Another night of business for the whore near the tugboat dock somewhere in Baltimore. A mutual agreement, nothing more. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. Chestertown.
frozen heart sends ice through frozen veins, and blindness blackens views of certainty. To some self-serving servants of deceit, decisions chart a cruel and callous course. When nerves in numbness nullify the heat, and pleasure reigns as happiness's source. When asked for explanation, one stands mute, for words of truth condemn, not justify. When first observed, his manner seems astute, but in the end, more like to damnify. Alone one finds himself before the end, when only on himself does he depend. Depths unimagined, glimmers in the Sunday sunrise, caressing every wandering arm of light. An intimate body of smooth satin patchwork, silent in the resurrecting sun, glistens in splendor, awaiting the breeze. Is only the web of an effortless oar can be seen moving along its silent, intimate shore. Every darkness has an edge that cuts across the remnants of each day, as if a sacred privilege, an evening art exhibit on display. A blindness falls upon our shelves throughout the well-stocked storerooms of our minds. before the light of morning hits the blinds. Never comes a silence like the silence of the darkness I allege. Never comes a morning uninvited by the darkness of its edge. How discontent such melancholy makes one who by fear is driven from his sleep, whose fear of stolen love his heart forsakes, too cold at night to laugh, too proud to weep, who boldly seeks tempestuous terrain, who boldly rides the tempest or the waves like galleons upon the Spanish main, with greed for golden promise one enslaves. How bitter can the fruits of passion be? Deceptive vines that strangle at the will. Bound is he who ventures to be free. Prometheus, like chained upon a hill, lies discontented, restlessness in store. When strays one too far past his native shore. face looked different when she came. Her eyes weren't quite as wide. A chilly wind was blowing, but the bar was warm inside. The waitress put the pitcher down. He felt a sort of dread. She wiped away a tear, then told him what the doctor said. He listened to the jukebox play an unfamiliar tune. He held her hand and heard it fade to wedding bells of June. Ageless echoes in timeless streets. Progress comes in stages. Buildings rise above the trees as deterioration rages. Never has it been perceived, nor ever has been granted life to one who's been conceived, but never really wanted. Fire leapt from the rooftop outside the dwelling. People stood, their world came to a standstill. People offered what they could.
Burnt out family, barely dressed, looked out at the destruction, shivering in the morning chill as water pounded without interruption. Painted shingles blistered badly. Broken glass fell on the lawn. Memories of a lifetime stolen. Memories of a lifetime gone.
When the storm settled in, the wind and spray interwove.
So we followed the chart
to a place called Dun Cove.
The anchor held firm.
The water was glass. Memories
off the rocks in Maine, just before the big blow came.
His wife was in the kitchen, unaware
that the storm would ravage things beyond repair.
The kids were playing with their toys in the yard
when the sky grew black and the wind blew hard.
Trees bent back and rain filled the sky.
Seagulls headed inland,
barely able to fly.
He looked toward the cabin as it faded away.
Then he finally lost sight
from wind and the spray.
He was still
scraping muscles as the ocean churned, then wandered away and never returned.
Her husband sat beside her when she finally closed her eyes. He held her hand and talked about when everything was nice. The steady pulse persisted as he talked into the night. There were footsteps in the hallway, there were shadows in the light. Outside the sky was black and hard, the wind was cold as ice. He talked into the night about when everything was nice. Talked about the promises that he wished that he could make. He asked her for forgiveness for the ones that he did break. He was young, she was young, back when they first met. They were both still very young, and it wasn't over yet. Talked about the family they hoped to have one day. He talked about her beauty that had yet to fade away. Outside the sky was black and hard, the wind was cold as ice. He talked into the night about when everything was nice. And then he asked God why the good die young. He got no reply. He talked into the night and then he finally said goodbye. Her husband sat beside her when she finally closed her eyes. He held her hand and thought about when everything was nice. Death, he needs no introductory. He hasn't an appointment to confirm. He has no positive identity. He only speaks in unfamiliar terms.
Death cares not
The season of the year,
does not his progress nor his work impair.
death dares not,
His only souvenir
is to elevate the humor of despair.
Death has no possessions to attach, nor wages to provide a recompense.
Death has no assistant
To dispatch as he celebrates his life at man's expense.
of death.
No portrait
Ever has been painted,
yet with death
no man can say
he's unacquainted.
She comes and she goes, just like a dancer in the night. Nobody knows, nobody can see her. The tips of her toes move like an endless summer day from long ago. Nobody can free her. She turns around, there's a smile in her eyes. Yesterday's promises, tomorrow's surprise. Then she's gone. Yesterday, forever, for a time. Yesterday, forever in my mind. The cool autumn breeze and the denim jacket mornings, and there's grass stains on her jeans. She's sitting beside me, black winter trees and the footprints in the snowy field. There's no one in between. There's nothing to hide me. And I open my eyes and it all disappears into the sleepless night. It's been so many years, it's just a dream. Yesterday, forever, so it seems. Yesterday, forever, in my dream. Turns and she stares as I pull into a parking lot. I notice what she wears. She wears it so well. She brushes her hair and she turns the rearview mirror. She looks like a millionaire. Doesn't believe it. I step outside and I open her door. She slips away, I can't see her anymore. Sunrise arrives. Yesterday, forever, how time flies. Yesterday, forever, in her eyes. So much like water, truth does seep through cracks in mighty fortress walls, then rises o'er the dams of fiction, drowning deception and deceit.
If truth so much like water be, then desert like our vicious lies, a thirst beyond remotest quench, searing all sincerity.
Fresh water flows forever down mighty waterfalls from somewhere high, quietly cleansing rocks of hardship and despair, turning rocks to sand, carrying sand down liquid pathways from the highest peaks a man may know to the salty Gulf of Mexico. Even in a stagnant pool, each long enduring molecule breathes life, perpetuating, evaporating slowly in the afternoon. Back to rain, back to the mountaintop, back to the river, back to the sea, back to man.
The sun comes up, the sun goes down.
climb such lofty heights again, to reconstruct the bridge to innocence, to tremble not amid the ocean's roar, and take flight above the plains of the present tense. Oh, to feel the heartbeat of romance, and gaze into the valley far below, absent for the want of a second chance, back to the source of life's rivers flow. Sorrow marks the spot where passion's lain. The price that must be paid is ill afforded. Oh, to climb such lofty heights again, without the need that one must be rewarded. Let not these footprints vanish in the dust before we reconcile with whom we must. Dust was still flying from the hearts that were shattered. When pieces were scattered, I made no reply. When their enemy charged and their fortress was battered, people were asking, where was I? Where was I? And did I hear them calling? Where was I, and did I hear them cry? There's a place for everything that matters, and a place where echoes never die. Ships started sinking into a dark, cold nighttime. It was not the right time to turn and to fly. When they sounded a signal, a loud distress signal, people were asking, where was I? Where was I? And did I hear them calling? Where was I, and did I hear that sound? There's a place for everything that matters, and a place where peace cannot be found. As I sail through these waters of pleasure and sorrow, I think of tomorrow as many men does, into deep water uncharted. I'll go shallow-hearted and carry the cargo of where I was. Where was I, and did I hear them calling? Where was I, and did I hear them cry? There's a place for everything that matters, and a place where sorrow never dies. There's a place for everything that matters, and a place where sorrow never dies. For the lifeless tree, whose frozen winter lasts forever. Summer romance gone below its branches, worn and faded days of shaded pathways render hungry, homeless. Spring this year. Brittle bones the breezes break, might's accommodations make too hollow. Lie a cave, a monolith of yesterday. Perhaps a humble hearth the lifeless limbs will find to warm a chilly winter night, as lovers dance and sip champagne. Dignity for a lifeless tree. Denise loves day forever, hewed into the bark, a first kiss and certain first surrender. Now an ember in the hearth, a helpless lonely spark, faintly glowing in the dark. Hard hat hacking, syncopation, orchestrated amputation. Pathways strewn, chips fly wildly through the stillness of the breeze. area stands waiting to intrude. The plowmen and the planters of the seed have retreated in the shadows of their need. Their holy fields, once plentiful, now overgrown with weed. Carry me back to the eastern shore, where the willow dares to weep no more, and the wind-blown mighty sycamore can shade the path to where I'm bound. So many, like the stars, were the expressions on her face, twinkling through her universe eyes like a deep and watery night. Virtues near and distant define her disposition well, and render body, mind, and soul unforgettable. Carry me back to the old boatyard, where painted names on sterns are charred, on oaken planks still firm and hard, against the rot of benign neglect. Lay my head on those sandy banks, where squalls run wild and the north wind cranks. Leave me there to offer thanks in the varnish of the rising tide. When the sun goes down in Chestertown, all the watermen are well aware they must prepare to do it all again. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Chestertown. Heartily, let's turn the girl around and head her up the bay to where we started. Perhaps we'll meet again in Chestertown, the port of call from whence we've long departed. Remember well the course we've undertaken, the many ports and many kinds of weather. Let no our logbook ever be mistaken. All things considered, we sail quite well together. We, the users, the protectors of the bay, have yet a bit of work for us in store. From the C&D Canal south to Cape Henry, from Chestertown and west to Baltimore. Artistic beauty, never to estrange age-old news is good news. Some things never change. Sets on the old crab boat. The captain empties his last traps. His oldest son picks up the float. A tradition on the bay, perhaps. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in our small town. Bushel baskets on the bow, bushel baskets on the stern. The youngest son, he watches hard. He still has so much left to learn. As the sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in our small town. As the sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Rock Hall Town. Kitchen cooking, waits with a smile in her small town. She walks by the waterfront window looking as the crab boat ties to the piles in the ground. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in our small town. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Rock Hall Town. A day is done in our small town. A father says goodnight. Tomorrow he'll be on the bay before the morning light. And the old crab boat begins another day. The oldest son is at the wheel and guides her on her way. The youngest son is at his side, prepared to lend a hand. It's the busy season of the year, the peak time of demand. As the sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in our small town. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Rock Hall Town. The old retired captain watches with a smile in his small town. The crab boat departs once more, heading outward bound. As the sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in our small town. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Rock Hall Town. Another day in our small town. The captain greets
Imagine you're like digging through a drawer
Okay.
and you find this crumpled, faded poem that you wrote maybe 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. But then suddenly you hear it played back to you as a sweeping, multi-act folk opera backed by a full classical orchestra.
That is a completely surreal concept.
It totally is. Because usually when we find those old fragments of our younger selves, like a diary entry or a letter, we glance at it, feel that quick pang of nostalgia, and just shove it right back into the dark.
Exactly. We hide it away.
But the work we're immersing ourselves in today does the exact opposite of that. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring a really breathtaking piece of art called the Unabridged Chestertown Anthology.
And the genesis of this anthology is really a story in itself.
It's fascinating.
Because these were originally just loose poems. They were fragments of a much younger voice from decades past.
Just sitting in a box somewhere.
Basically, yeah. But they weren't left in that drawer. The creator, Mark Einstein, resurrected them during the recent global lockdowns. Oh, right.
He took these quiet, forgotten words from an era of, constant movement, and he breathed new life into them precisely when the world was forced to stand completely still.
When, as the text actually puts it so eloquently, distance replaced closeness.
Yes, exactly that phrase.
I mean, that context changes everything about how you experience this, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
It transforms a simple collection of poetry into this deliberate, almost defiant act of remembering. And Mark Einstein didn't just publish a book here. He wrote and musically directed this into a massive auditory journey.
A huge undertaking.
Yeah. And we are guided the entire time by two distinct voices, a male and a female storyteller.
Right, and those two storytellers, they serve as our anchors through the whole thing.
They really do.
They function almost like a Greek chorus. They narrate this sweeping human arc that moves through, well, basically everything. Youth, love, adventure, sudden tragedy, death, and ultimately redemption.
It covers the entire human experience.
It does. And we have to talk about the sonic landscape they're operating within, too. Oh, the music is incredible.
The musical direction here is just fascinating. You have these clear, grandiose echoes of classical heavyweights. Think like Bach, Beethoven, Vivaldi.
Very sweeping, dramatic.
Exactly. But that high classical sound is intentionally crashed into these very contemporary, folksy textures.
Which creates this brilliant temporal dissonance. I mean, you're hearing an acoustic guitar that feels straight out of 1970s folk music.
Right.
But it's layered over strings that sound 300 years old.
It's such a specific vibe.
It literally maps a coming-of-age journey from the 1960s straight through the 1990s. It makes these small, everyday moments feel entirely mythic.
Yeah, it's a brilliant psychological trick played through music.
Totally.
Because the score gives a heartbeat and this vast scale to memories that previously, they only lived on a silent page.
Right.
And Mark Einstein uses the male and female storytellers to establish this scale very early on in the first act.
They don't start big, do they?
No, not at all. They start us off at the absolute ground floor of the human experience.
Like childhood.
Exactly. The extreme, almost claustrophobic innocence of youth.
The female storyteller opens with this incredibly fragile vignette. I mean, you can picture it perfectly as she sings it.
It's so vivid.
There's this barefoot girl, and she's dancing delicately in a puddle in an alleyway.
Just completely in her own world.
Yeah, she's pirouetting, she's curtsying in this pretty little dress. And the boys passing by on their bicycles don't even glance her way.
They just ride right past.
They are entirely oblivious to this quiet, solitary magic happening right next to them.
And the isolation of that moment is key here, because the male storyteller follows it up with a parallel memory of isolation.
Oh, the boy at the tree.
Yes, a boy waiting by a hollow oak tree for a girl in a checkered uniform.
He's just standing there.
Standing there like a lonely cowboy, as they say. He's just waiting to carry your books.
Enduring the teasing.
Exactly. Stubbornly ignoring all the dirty looks they're getting from the schoolyard sisters.
It's so sweet, but so isolating.
It is. Both of these storytellers are grounding us in the hyper-specific sensory world of youth. A world that is very small, very local.
Just like puddles and oak trees.
Puddles, oak trees, and the cool, dark woods of Patapsco.
Right, where the kids from Baltimore would run to escape.
Yeah, to make peace with the world, as the lyrics say.
But, the brilliance of this opening act is that it doesn't just paint childhood as this idyllic, sepia-toned paradise where everything is perfect.
No, it definitely doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
It acknowledges the very real, visceral pain of being young and totally powerless.
The paperboy story.
Yes. The storytellers hit us with this memory of a paperboy. It's a freezing morning, and he's out there trudging through the snow with 100 heavy papers left to throw.
Ugh, you can just feel how cold it is.
The wind is howling, his feet are completely damp. He finally finishes the route, completely exhausted, goes into his warm kitchen, and just breaks down.
Because of the news.
Right. He cries frozen tears because he looks at the news and realizes school had been canceled the whole time.
Oh, that is a profound kind of childhood agony.
It really is.
It's that sudden, crushing realization that your suffering was entirely unnecessary.
You went through all that for nothing.
Exactly. But from a narrative standpoint, that intense localized pain is actually a necessary catalyst.
How so?
Well, as the music pushes the timeline forward, the characters grow. And that sharp physical pain of the cold snow melts into the overwhelming intensity of first love.
Which brings us to Karen.
Yes, Karen.
The storyteller refers to her as a teacher of the heart.
Such a great phrase.
She is the one who taught her boyfriend how to laugh and, maybe just as importantly, how to cry.
She really opened him up emotionally.
And she'd leave him these perfumed love notes. And the sad part is, long after they've gone their separate ways, long after it's over, he still hides those notes in his room.
She becomes this lingering phantom for him. First love in this folk opera is treated as a literal awakening of the nervous system.
It really is. I mean, the descriptions of this springtime love are so intensely physical.
Very sensory.
The narrator talks about waking up from a dark night, and suddenly their sense of smell comes rushing back. They notice the specific angle of the sunshine hitting the window shades.
Even their appetite returns.
Right. Reading through the lyrics of that section, it instantly reminded me of that moment in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, when she opens the door?
Exactly. When Dorothy opens the door to Oz, and the entire film shifts from that flat sepia tone into aggressive, full-blown Technicolor, you are suddenly hyper-aware of every single color and sound.
That sensory awakening analogy is spot on. MarkTennyson Einstein directs the male and female storytellers to sing about this awakening with immense reverence.
You can really hear the awe in their voices.
But here is the narrative pivot.
Okay.
That hypersensory world of youth, contained in the woods of Patapsco or a childhood bedroom, it's fundamentally unsustainable.
You can't stay there forever.
The bubble has to burst. As the characters age, their playground has to expand. So they inevitably move from those contained, predictable forests to the vast, entirely unpredictable waters of the coast.
And that geographic shift changes the entire texture of the anthology.
Yeah.
We're suddenly, sailing past the horizon.
The scope just blows up.
The storytellers take us on these trips aboard the Old Bay Bell Ferry out of Baltimore, cruising past Sparrows Point.
Mm-hmm.
And the classical music seems to really swell here, giving way to the rhythmic sounds of the water.
And this is where the storytellers introduce a really deep sense of sociological decay.
Yeah, it gets a bit melancholic.
It's a mourning for the physical spaces of our past. They sing about a bustling boardwalk, a place alive with the smell of cold chicken sandwiches and the crash of bumper cars.
Sounds like a great memory.
It does, but then they pull the listener violently back into the present. They note that the vibrant boardwalk of their youth is now nothing but a condo ghost town with tumbleweed memories.
The gentrification of memory, the literal place you remember doesn't even exist anymore.
It's just gone.
But, while the physical places change, the people they encounter on the water are incredibly enduring. These gritty, deeply vibrant adult characters.
Oh, the characters in this act are fantastic.
You've got Old Spider from Riverton. He's this rugged sailor wrestling with his boat, the Web, who only grins when the seas get dangerously rough.
A classic old salt.
Yeah. And then you have the tired commuters disembarking the ferry on Casco Bay, where just for a moment the relentless pace of age seems to slow down for them.
The coast is really constructed as a liminal space here.
What do you mean by that?
It's an environment where the normal, rigid rules of mainland society just start to fray and dissolve. People operate differently out there.
Oh, to see that fraying in action, you just have to look at the scene in the Swamp Circle Saloon.
Yes, the saloon scene.
The storytellers paint this phenomenally chaotic diorama. You've got West River sailors who are starting their drinking at noon.
Not judging, but yeah, noon.
Right. There's a guy absent-mindedly playing with a yo-yo at the bar. An old man in a bow tie just muttering to himself. And a barmaid who's effortlessly juggling bottles on and off the shelf.
It's a sanctuary for the eccentric and the lost. Truly a beautifully constructed monument to escapism.
Well, wait, let me challenge that concept of escapism for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because in so much of our literature and music, the sea is the ultimate metaphor for boundless freedom. It's the great frontier, right?
Sure. The open ocean, the wind in your hair.
Exactly. But looking at the characters Mark Tennyson Einstein brings to life here, it kind of feels like the opposite.
How so?
Take the tugboat captain. He comes ashore in Baltimore, puffing this massive cigar, and he wanders into a local tavern, specifically seeking out a woman who works there.
Right, the tavern scene.
And the storytellers observe this interaction through a really hazy, detached lens. It's a transaction masked as a strange romance. They dance, they share a drink, and the tavern patrons just offer this low laugh as they leave.
It's a bit grim.
It doesn't feel like boundless freedom to me. It feels like people running away.
Yeah.
They're day drinking, they're hiding in saloons, they're engaging in these emotionally numb, detached interactions.
That is a really vital observation, and honestly, it cuts to the philosophical core of how this folk opera utilizes the water.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The male and female storytellers are absolutely not romanticizing maritime life. The water isn't a paradise of freedom, it's a neutral stage.
A neutral stage.
Yes, it's a blank canvas where the raw, gritty human condition just plays out without any of the polite filters of mainland society.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
For the sailor, yes, it's a dream fulfilled when the wind is fair, but you're recognizing the darker undertone. It is heavily populated by evasion.
They're avoiding their real lives.
It's a place of emotional stagnation. The characters are avoiding the mainland, they're avoiding permanence.
They're just treading water, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. But the narrative tension that Mark Tennyson Einstein builds relies on a pretty terrifying reality. The sea might offer you a place to hide, but it is fundamentally untamable. You can escape the mainland, but you cannot control the ocean.
Mother Nature always wins.
She does. And that lack of control brings us into the most harrowing movement of the entire anthology.
Act 3. The transition into the storms of tragedy.
It's rough.
The storytellers literally force us out of the hazy escapism of the tavern and make us confront the absolute brutal suddenness of loss. It is incredibly jarring to listen to.
The musical direction likely shifts heavily here, stripping away all that folksy warmth and leaving just stark, dissonant classical elements.
To match the mood.
Because tragedy doesn't announce itself. It doesn't give you a warning.
It just happens on a random Tuesday. I mean, one minute you're observing the eccentricities of the Swamp Circle Saloon, and the next you are forced to watch a family shivering in the morning chill because their house is just burned to the ground.
Just gone in a flash.
The storytellers describe the blistered shingles, the shattered glass scattered all across the lawn, and the narrator just delivers this crushing refrain. Memories of a lifetime stolen. Memories of a lifetime gone.
It exposes the extreme fragility of all these structures we spend our entire lives building. All of it gone in an instant.
And it isn't just physical property that gets wiped away either. The most devastating vignette in this entire work takes place in Maine.
The mussel picker.
Yes, a man is out on the rocks picking mussels. It's a completely mundane, repetitive task.
So normal.
And the storytellers deliberately emphasize the domestic safety happening just a few yards away. His kids are playing with toys in the yard. His wife is inside the warm kitchen, cooking.
They're entirely unaware of what's about to happen.
Totally oblivious. And then a sudden squall rolls in. Without any dramatic buildup at all, the man is just swept away.
Oh, it's awe.
He wanders into the violent churn of the ocean, and he never returns.
The juxtaposition there is deeply unsettling. The warmth of the kitchen against the violent, completely indifferent reality of nature.
It's horrifying.
And after that sweeping outdoor tragedy, the storytellers zoom in to a claustrophobic, incredibly intimate scale for the bedside scene.
That scene is honestly devastating to listen to.
Yeah.
You have this husband sitting by his dying wife in the middle of a cold, black night.
The atmosphere is just so heavy.
The wind outside is cutting like ice. And he's just sitting there in the dark, apologizing for the promises he broke over the years. He's talking about when everything was nice, desperately trying to pull the past into the present.
Pleading with it, really.
And he asks God why the good die young. And he gets no reply. Just the cold wind.
It's within this cold silence that the opera takes its most philosophical turn, I think.
The personification of death.
Yes. The storytellers step forward to personify death itself. They describe death as an entity that needs no introductory.
He needs to know introduction.
Right. He has no positive identity. He doesn't care what season it is. He doesn't have a family to provide wages for.
He just had the job to do.
His only souvenir, as they sing, is to elevate the humor of despair.
You know, hearing death described that way, he doesn't sound like a monster in a cloak with a scythe.
No, not at all.
He sounds like a ruthless, uninvited auditor who suddenly shows up to freeze your bank accounts.
Oh, it's a chilling comparison.
But it fits, right? He doesn't care if you have vacation plans this weekend. He doesn't care about your past, your apologies, or your kids playing in the yard. He simply arrives to collect the debt, and he never, ever makes an appointment.
That is a chillingly accurate interpretation, and Mark Tennyson Einstein's direction makes the arrival of that auditor feel completely inevitable.
You can't escape it.
What is striking about the composition here is how the male and female storytellers handle it. Their voices harmonize in this shared universal grief.
They come together.
They introduce a visceral metaphor. They sing about a lifeless tree screaming in sheer agony as chainsaws and axes chop it into firewood.
Oh, I remember that part.
If you think back to the beginning, the boy waiting by the hollow oak tree in his youth, the cyclical nature of the imagery becomes very clear.
The tree that sheltered you is gone.
Exactly. The tree that shelters you in youth is eventually chopped down. They don't frame tragedy as an evil villain that must be defeated. They present it as a neutral, inevitable force of nature, just like the sea.
Man, if the anthology stopped right there, it would leave you with this crushing, totally nihilistic view of the world, just straight up tragedy.
It absolutely would. But if we analyze the elemental themes running through the entire work, water is the central artery here.
Okay, water.
And water is dualistic. The exact same ocean that brought the devastating storm to the mussel picker in Maine is also the universal mechanism for cleansing.
It destroys and it heals.
Exactly. This duality pulls the listener out of despair and into the final act, Act 4. Redemption, renewal, and the endless cycle.
Right. The storytellers introduce this really fascinating concept of truth acting so much like water. It's an unstoppable force. It seeps through the tiny cracks of mighty fortress walls.
It drowns deception.
Yeah. They trace this flow from the highest, purest mountain peaks, quietly cleansing the rocks as it moves, all the way down to the salty Gulf of Mexico, only to evaporate, rise up, and return back to the mountaintop.
Using the water cycle as a metaphor for the endurance of truth is just brilliant writing.
It really is.
It shows that while individual lives may be swept away, the essence of truth in life is indestructible. It just changes form.
And this realization gives birth to the recurring, grounding mantra of the entire folk opera.
The refrain.
Through all the shifting decades, through all the births and deaths we just talked about, the storytellers keep returning to this one rhythmic phrase. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It happens every day in Chestertown. It happens every day in Rock Hall Town.
It functions as the heartbeat of the whole narrative, a reminder of permanence.
But you know, if you're listening to this and wondering how a simple sunset makes up for a tragic death on the rocks in Maine, you aren't alone.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really made me pause. Like, does this relentless, endless cycle, the sun rising and setting with total indifference to our suffering, does that diminish the individual tragedies?
That's the big question.
Does it make the dying wife or the frozen paper boy feel insignificant in the grand scheme of things? Or does the fact that the sun always rises somehow give those painful moments meaning?
That is the central philosophical knot of the entire piece. Does the cycle mock us, or does it save us?
Right.
And the male and female storytellers provide their answer in the final beautiful scenes out on the bay. They don't answer with a philosophical lecture, though.
No, they show us.
They answer by showing us a generational passing of the torch.
The scene on the crabbing boat.
Yes. We see this old, retired captain. He is inside, watching from his kitchen window with a smile on his face.
He's off the water now.
Right. And out on the water, the current active captain is at the wheel, expertly guiding the boat. His oldest son is beside him, physically picking up the float, doing the heavy lifting.
The next generation.
And the youngest son is right there too, watching hard with so much left to learn.
The lyrics there are so rhythmic too, like bushel baskets on the bow, bushel baskets on the stern. It's the rhythm of work, the rhythm of life continuing.
To directly answer the question of whether the cycle diminishes the tragedy, no. The cycle absorbs the tragedy.
It absorbs it.
Redemption in this folk opera isn't about finding a magical way to escape death. It isn't about miraculously preserving youth so that the little barefoot girl never has to leave her puddle.
Which is impossible anyway.
Exactly. True redemption is continuation. The mosaic of memory that Mark Einstein built survives precisely because the next generation is standing on the deck of the boat.
They're paying attention.
They are watching, they are learning, and they will eventually take the wheel.
When you step back and look at the sheer scope of what we've covered today, it's astonishing.
It really is quite a journey.
A collection of 30-year-old poems, locked away in a box, was given a heartbeat and a full symphony. Through the profound guidance of our male and female storytellers, we basically walk an entire human lifetime.
We really did.
We started with the intense, localized innocence of puddles and hollow oak trees. We sailed out into the gritty, escapist waters of the coast, meeting tugboat captains and sailors running from the mainland. We survived the cold, uninvited audits of tragedy and sudden death.
And we made it to the other side.
And finally, we found a lasting peace in the changing tides and the generational passing of the torch. It is a hauntingly beautiful psychological study of memory.
The way it handles the weight of time is just masterful, and I think there is a really profound takeaway here for anyone listening to us right now.
What's that?
Well, as we discussed at the very beginning, this anthology was born from fragments of a younger voice. The creator captured incredibly simple, everyday moments, waiting by a tree, walking in the snow, watching a boat, that took 3 full decades to reveal their actual musical and emotional weight.
They were just ordinary moments at the time.
Exactly. So consider the mundane moments you're living through today. The repetitive, seemingly boring route you drive to work. A casual passing conversation with a friend at a coffee shop.
The modern equivalent of waiting by the hollow oak tree.
Precisely. If your current life right now, in all its quiet routine, were scored with a symphony and played back as a folk opera 30 years from today, what massive narrative arc would those seemingly forgotten moments reveal about exactly who you were becoming?
Oh, wow. That is a perspective shift that is going to stay with me for a long, long time. Next time you find an old, dusty box of memories tucked away in the back of a closet, maybe don't be so quick to just put the lid back on. Take a moment. Look a little closer. And listen to the music playing underneath them. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.